I've said a number of times on my channel, and this is going to end up getting to Spider-Man, so just bear with me because I got to lay some groundwork. But I've said a number of times on my channel that Hollywood doesn't care about making money, they care about preaching an agenda. Now, that's hard for a lot of people to understand, and it's a very general statement, so I need to be more specific about it. But it's hard for people to understand because it's not logical, right? I mean, I'll be the first to admit it's not logical. If they're a business to make money, then they should make money. And if their product isn't selling or isn't, getting them the kind of results they want, then it's only logical that they would change their product. And you would think that the lack of funds coming in would necessitate them to do it, no matter how much they didn't like it at some point, right? I get that, but that's just not how Hollywood works. To be more specific, though, I'm going to differentiate between the different factions. So, we'll look at Disney here. When you talk about Disney, you've got the actual people in charge of creating the stories, of writing the stories, producing the stories, publishing or publicizing the stories, pushing them out there. And then you've got the shareholders, the people who the creatives at Disney, executive producers on down, are responsible to money-wise, business-wise. And that is, they are responsible to that. And the shareholders will, every year, or so hold their feet to the fire if they're not, if the numbers weren't good or whatever. But the shareholders are so far removed from anything that's actually going on in the company in terms of creative processes, direction of the company. They're not following, the shareholders have no clue. The Mandalorian's getting a lot of press, but this other, still Disney continuity stuff isn't. So, the shareholders aren't going to come in and say, we want you to kill the High Republic and really, beef up the Mandalorian take. That's what we want to do. No, they're not that involved. They don't even care that much. They just want that bottom line. So the creative types in these companies, Disney, for example, in this in this scenario here, they know that they have to make at least a certain amount to keep the shareholders off their back. But what they really want to do, no matter what, is continue preaching their agenda. So this is where it's completely illogical, but this is just how when people become ideologues, when an ideology takes over their brain, it's a cult-like behavior. They don't think logically. This is why, as I said before, so many great directors, writers, storytellers who've given us so many amazing stories in the past are suddenly just turning out this drivel that's the social agenda, nonsense, the ideologue nonsense, trying to program, social value, their chosen social values of their ideology into the culture, because the ideology's taken over their minds and their identities, and they think that's infinitely more important than telling a good story as they did before. So that's why the creative types here at Disney are far more concerned with pushing an agenda than they are telling good story, but they also are more concerned with pushing an agenda than they are making money, to the extent that they could make money, right? I mean, they're not complete and total idiots. Being an ideologue doesn't take away knowledge that so they know, hey, Mandalorian was really popular. They could really, if they really wanted to capitalize on that, Disney could really put all their chips in with that and really, but they didn't. They didn't. In fact, what's the first thing they did after The Mandalorian was so popular was announce all these other Disney Plus shows, including like the all-female led one, and then the this other TIE Fighter one or something, I think, that takes place right after Rise of Skywalker and everything. And you've got Favreau himself, as I've said many times, affirming that, yes, The Mandalorian leads right into the New Order and the Disney continuity of the Disney sequel trilogy. So it's they know what they could do, but they won't, because preaching that agenda is more important to them. Okay, but they do have to make a certain amount of showing for the stockholders to keep them off their back. So here's where it gets interesting. Disney knows exactly what they're doing, and they've done this a number of times already, and it's worked. It's worked, and I'll go over some of their tactics, and I'll ultimately end on the Spider-Verse, because that's the latest. That's the latest tactic that they're doing right now, and I'll look at that a little bit. Let's go to the tactics they use. One of the tactics that I started to or did explain some in last week's stream, and I'll talk about it now in context of the specificity that I'm using here, is let's talk about The Mandalorian. The Mandalorian, as I've maintained from the very start, is nothing more than a tasty bone that Disney has thrown the fans who are angry about the sequel trilogy. That's all it is. That's all. And anybody, I think even people who are so mad at me for criticizing The Mandalorian or saying people shouldn't watch it would still at least agree to that, right? And I think it's even on a matter of record, Favreau going to them saying, I think I can get fans back for you. Let me do this series or whatever. Because Favreau's a great storyteller. And I don't necessarily know that he's an ideologue or not. I'm not familiar with the in total body of his work, but as far as I know, no, he's quite a great storyteller. So it's calculated. This was a calculated move to do The Mandalorian. And the problem, the way a lot of fans perceive it, even plays into Disney's calculations. Think about it. If Disney puts out a show like that, that people flock to because they put out one little Disney Plus show that doesn't include the agenda, that doesn't include the nonsense, well, people flock to that. And what does that reflect on? That raises the Disney Star Wars numbers, the Disney Lucasfilm, that raises their numbers. Stockholders don't care. They're not going to look in and say, oh, but I see that only came from Mandalorian and not from the other stuff you're doing. They don't care. They see the numbers raise, and they will even say, good job, Kathleen Kennedy, because she presided over The Mandalorian. Every bit of the success of The Mandalorian reflects on Kathleen Kennedy as far as anything that matters goes here in terms of rewards and all of that, accolades and whatnot. That it gives her the boost. She's the one. So they knew that. They knew if they gave fans a bone, they'd shut up and chew on it. And I don't know if they knew this from the start, but it certainly plays into it. This nonsense that I've talked about many times and tried to call out and pull back the curtain on, that there's this civil war in Lucasfilm, and there are factions. Favreau's on our side, guys, and Filoni's on our side, and we need to kind of we need to keep supporting the stuff they do so that we can make a showing and we can show that the numbers that we are, only the stuff that they do are the stuff that we're wanting to watch, and we're not watching the others, and they'll see that numbers. No. They don't care. And in fact, that conspiracy theory, because that's basically all it is. There's absolutely no evidence of any kind of civil war or anything. It's a conspiracy theory. And as I said in last week's stream, it's propagated by these different YouTube channels that themselves get paid and get a lot more traffic on their channel for continue to propagate this conspiracy theory that there's a civil war and there are different factions in Lucasfilm, and we need to support the ones, because if they can convince fans, if they can convince the critical fans, if they can convince all the fans that were livid and said absolutely no to The Last Jedi, and then just turned around and walked away from Solo, a Star Wars story, that terrified Disney. People actually walked away. They didn't bother going to see it en masse. I mean, that's a big deal. That's what brings about, that's what gets their attention anyway. Those people, though, who said, yeah, nope, not even going to worry about it, a lot of those people flock to The Mandalorian. That plays right into Disney's hand, right? Disney's great. We've got them back. No one cares. No one's looking at Disney's numbers and saying, oh, but the ratings are only high on that show and not on that one. No, the stockholders don't care. They see the numbers up. They say, good job, Disney. Keep doing what you're doing. And that means, yeah, keep throwing out those little bones to shut people up so that they can keep doing what they want to do and preach their agenda through their continued Disney continuity. The High Republic, that came on the heels of The Mandalorian. And I'm convinced it was made possible by the success of The Mandalorian. So the whole idea that we got to keep supporting the good stuff but not supporting the bad stuff, no, this only plays into their hand, and it only assures that you will never receive anything more than a tasty bone here and there. You're not going to actually make any change to the company, to their handling of the Star Wars franchise. Show me the evidence. If you still insist after so many years now that this nonsense has been going on, if you still insist otherwise, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. It plays into their hand, actually. So other things they've done, other tactics they've done. I mentioned last time about the Gina Carano firing. Now, Gina Carano wasn't playing ball. She was not on their side with their agenda that they wanted to preach, both in the shows, but in public, and whatnot. So they knew for a long time that they were going to get rid of her. You'll never convince me that things just finally came to a head at that moment and then they let her go for that reason or whatever. No, they knew for a long time. The moment that they decided to let her go was very calculated. It was calculated. They let her go right at the end of season 2 of Mandalorian, when that had pretty much wrapped up. The whole season was out. They'd pretty much received all the publicity and returning money or whatever they were going to get from that. Then they let her go. They let her go at that moment because they knew that season 3 of The Mandalorian is far, far off. That's far down the road. And by then, everybody, no matter how livid they are, no matter how much they say that that's it, that's the last straw, they're done with Disney forever, they'll have it out of their system by then, and they'll be ready to come back and see what's going on in season 3 of Mandalorian. And you know what? They're absolutely right. That's exactly what has happened. Now, maybe, a couple of you here might say, not me, that was the end for me, and I'm still standing on it. Okay. But you've got a lot of people are addicted to consuming product. They can't help themselves. They must consume the new product, the new sexy product that's in fashion, that's being tweeted about and all that stuff. As I said last week, I can't tell you how many people, it was like pulling teeth to get people who understood what I was talking about with Masters of the Universe Revelation, how this is garbage, guys. It's going to be garbage. It's nothing that we should be supporting. And people would say, yeah, no, I get it. But I kind of feel like I have to watch the first episode. I mean, like it's pulling teeth. They can't, it's like crack cocaine for these people. They must consume. And then you got the people who say, well, I pirate it. I pirate it. And people think that's a way out. And oh my gosh, you would think you've insulted their baby when you tell them that doesn't matter. Pirating them is just as much part of the problem. Because they're desperate to still cling to that little way, that little tiny backdoor way that they could maybe still consume the product, but not give them money. But no, because they watch it pirated and then they go talk about it on social media and publicize it and all that kind of stuff. They're playing into it. It's all part of the same problem. So Disney knew that with Gina Carano. Disney knew that. So yeah, they fired Gina Carano when they did, and people were livid. It was the in vogue thing to be mad about. All of the right YouTube channels were throwing fits about it. Everybody was swearing off. That's it. That's the last straw. I'm done. I don't care how good The Mandalorian was. That's it. I can't believe they've done this. And I think Disney benefited and probably even in different ways encouraged the outrage to go on, because the stronger that outrage flared up in the moment, the faster it'll just dissipate afterwards, to the point where all they had to do was release a image of season 3 and Grogu with the yellow lightsaber or something, and people were flipping out. Oh, that's so amazing, this and that. And I saw a lot of the same people who were so mad about Gina Carano's handling are right back and curious and ready. And, I guess I got to go watch season 3. I mean, I've got to support my boy Favreau. They're back. So Disney knew exactly what they're doing. They're playing the fans. They're playing you people so easily. They know exactly what to do. Push your buttons.